Oh, well, hello, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to tonight's episode of The Weird and the Wonderful. Finally back again is me,
It's
your host,
us.
Antonio. It's us. Yes, it's us. But
It was on both of us. We decided to slack off together.
yeah, but no, but Sabrina, you've been doing a really good job with like the miniature Mondays
Oh, thank you.
and
Silent film.
the silent cinema. Yes, and speaking of silent cinema, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't checked out Metropolis, do check that one
Did you
out.
like it?
It's
Did you like it, my friend?
I loved it. Yes. No, yeah, it's I mean, Metropolis is like one of those movies where you you kind of heard about it. It's referenced in a billion different ways. I unfortunately wasn't there live to see it, but I was going to point out that Radio Gaga is essentially an homage to
Yes.
Metropolis, and it
They
has
did
Freddie
so much with
Mercury, and
that.
apparently Freddie Mercury performs a piece in Giorgio Moroder's version
Yeah, he
of
has the song "Love Kills," and then remember, I did bring up the Under Pressure music video. So Queen and David Bowie. They
mhm.
use also some stock footage of the workers going into the work elevators during that shift change. They use some of that
Right,
scene too.
yeah, and Under Pressure, yeah. So nice little segue to tonight's topic, which is pretty much sci-fi, or at least early examples of sci-fi, right? Because I've always been intrigued, you know, as a little kid, right? I've always been intrigued as to where like the idea of science fiction really came from, right?
Right.
I mean, look, of course, like there's always been the the vision of humankind to sort of look beyond its current restraints and see and delve into the possibilities of like of the future. What could be what could in a matter of a couple decades be possible from here on out. And obviously, for us looking at works from the 18th century, 19th century, of them speaking about things that are very commonly to today, very, very common to like things that we are already kind of doing to today, and in part of like I'll go ahead and mention, like Back to the Future, where Back to the Future 2, where you got all these, Insta pizzas. We're not quite there at Insta Pizza yet, but we do have telecommunication. Like you can call someone up, literally how we're doing right now. Like we're miles apart from each other, and yet here we are, instantaneously communicating through this audio visual device,
Right.
where I can see you, you can see me, we can talk to each other. This was something that our grandparents kind of dreamed of, being there, and yet like here we are in the year 2022,
Right.
where
And you
all this
find
is possible and more.
every once in a while, because somebody had posted it on Facebook the other day. I scrolled past it. It was one of those pictures from like the late 19th century or something, or you know what I mean, that turn of the century, where it was like an old picture of like people on like hover cars, but it's what the 1900s probably thought hover cars was going to look like, which kind of looked like Da Vinci machines with like those bat wings and stuff. It was very strange
Right.
looking. So for some of the stuff,
Very
we're not
like,
there yet.
yeah.
But then for some of the stuff, like let's say Metropolis, they have like a very modest version of like phone, like video call kind of stuff. And then you're like, oh yeah, they got it right, like they got Zoom right, or
Yeah.
Teams,
Yeah, or at least like they imagine the city of the future being one where like it's this dense concrete jungle of skyscrapers,
I
and
mean,
there's not
Metropolis just
really
looks like Manhattan, kind of like
correct.
if
Yeah,
you look at it, and it looks
yeah,
like a lot of major cities anymore.
yeah. Everything is chromed and shiny, and like there's lights all over the place. I'm just
Oh,
looking at the poster like right behind you, like that's
right, exactly. And what's funny
yeah,
about Metropolis too is it reminded me a little bit of Georgia because I remember driving through Georgia, and like what you said, very dense concrete jungle. of glass and chrome. But then you get like one old timey house, like one house, and I'm like, that's
Yeah.
Rotwang's house, like the one witch house in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
They got that aspect correct.
No, yeah.
Um,
Indeed, indeed.
but for me,
So,
what I wanted to bring up too, because you were bringing up like what brought you into sci-fi in general is
yeah.
for me what's always been interesting is like what's the cutoff between technology and magic. They've said that any kind of technology without explanation is akin to magic. There's like that
Of
trope or
course.
that rule, but the same thing to be said for very early instances of science fiction that comes up in mythology versus modern science fiction where we can just say that this is science fiction. It's not magic. It's mechanical. You know
Right.
what I mean? There's like a cutoff between when it stops being magic and it starts being science. And it's like, where does that
Correct.
line blur?
Yeah, exactly. So what would you say is kind of like the earliest like the earliest that farthest back that we could go back? I mean, in part of our kind of pre-discussions, let's put it that way. Uh I just want to shout out to
Yeah,
Monkiki,
Monkey,
our
Konbanwa.
Kumbawa, to our
Kun,
fellow Japanese fan. Thank you very much for joining
thank
us.
you. I assume it's morning where you are. Konbanwa.
Yeah, Kombawa. Uh, so yeah, so I mean, in part of our like pre-discussions, we discussed how in Hindi culture, or at least in Hindu mythology, you have the Vimanas, which are kind of like these flying castles, and this is something going thousands and thousands of
Right. It's
years
like
in the past. Yeah.
pre-biblical, when you really look at it, it's very ancient kind of sorry, my hair is like doing a funny thing today. This very ancient machinery where it's not a magic floating city, it's a mechanism. There's actually
Hmm.
workings to it. It's not like they just lifted something in the sky and said, "Oh, it's suspended by God's power of magic." It's like, oh, it's actually running on gears and it's similar
Right.
to Laputa.
Yeah, Laputa. If you're yeah, Laputa, we're referring to
Miyazaki, Ghibli.
Miyazaki's Castle in the Sky, which also kind of intrigues me. Also, like I think that film has become one of my favorite ones, just because I am one of those people that is very fascinated about flying cities in essence, right?
Right.
Um. I invite Monkey T to tell us what sort of science fiction does she like, because that's do they like, because that's something that I want to reach out as well. But before we get to that, so Vamanas in Hindu culture, I'm trying to think if there's anything that was like in the Bible, like Judeo-Christian.
Right. I know in Greek myths, one of the topics that I had in the top of my mind is Daedalus from Greek mythology because,
Right.
in Greek myths you have a lot of like magic, divinity, this kind of stuff. But then in Daedalus you have a normal human. He's not any kind of demigod. He's just a very good inventor, and he's famous for making the labyrinth that the Minotaur resided in. But for me, what stood out is he made a mechanical bull, for Minos's wife to use, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's that's
All
how
right.
that's how the Minotaur was conceived, baby. Was by
Ah.
Mecha bull suit,
Okay.
which is strange, right? But
Right.
then in Jason and the Argonauts, they fight an automaton named Talos, and he's a mechanical giant. He's literally a giant made of gold. And when they pull out a special screw out of his ankle, it leaks out his like life essence. It's kind of like his oil, basically, or his
Right.
gasoline. So
Yeah.
even he's running on like liquid magic, which seems very, that's like why the ancient alien shows goes like that was a robot, and I'm like, I don't disagree. That sounds like a robot to me. Like
Indeed, indeed. Ancient Aliens has definitely contributed to a lot of these like early. Well, actually, yeah, it has contributed a lot to these like early sci-fi superstitions, right?
right,
Where it's look at this, look, this is very clearly a man in a
right.
spacesuit.
Well, you get a lot of like strange things coming from the sky, right?
True.
And like how do you explain that? And so they have to imagine where is the other coming from, and so every once in a while you have some cool mythology attached to there. But in the meantime, even you got a robot in Greek mythology, just stick it right out there, just
No, yeah,
walking
of course.
around.
Oh, and actually, since I'm just gonna interject this
No, go for it.
really quickly. No, no, no. Is we were kind of struggling as to what topic to come up with for later on in the month, and there certainly is a lot of material to be said about. Uh, I'm not gonna call it conspiracy theories, but it's like scientific explanations to some of the Bible's more supernatural
Correct.
occurrences.
Like the flood. The flood seems to have happened for sure because it pops up in a lot of different mythologies. So people figured there
Right.
was some kind of flood that really
There was
freaked
some
a lot
kind
of
of
people
flood at
out.
some point. But what I mean is stuff like the burning bush. Like apparently the burning bush from the Exodus has like a whole thing behind it about like, oh, it
Yes,
wasn't really a burning bush. It
yeah, it's like a
was
strange area where it's like very gaseous. I think not unlike the Oracle of Delphi. I think it was like a very
yeah.
fumy kind of area.
Yeah.
Maybe he was tripping.
Maybe he was tripping. Well, no, but then there's also like the super like balls to the wall one where it's I've only seen like a small segment of this in a like a documentary like Ancient Alien style where it was some scholars talking about the mana machine. And
Okay.
if you recall, yeah, like if you recall, in the book of Exodus, it talks about how when the Hebrews lived in the desert for 40 years, um, Moses said, "Well, we are going to sustain ourselves out of manna, and it's going, and manna is gonna literally like fall from the sky."
Right.
And apparently, the explanation that these scholars were given is that really that's what the Ark of the Covenant really was. It was this machine that was given to the Hebrews where because basically like the Ark of the Covenant, like nobody could see, only Moses knew what the content of the Ark of the Covenant was. But then they sheltered it inside this tent, and the only person that could go inside the tent was Moses because he was the
Right.
chosen. He wasn't a chosen one, but he was the one selected by God, right? Like it
Right.
was this whole thing. But that apparently, like it was Moses going inside this tent with the Ark of the Covenant, and with and like inside the Ark was this machine that's what produced the manna, and so he would just like go inside the tent and just come out with bushels of like this grain, which is what was
It sounds like
described
a food
as
replicator
manna.
from Star Trek or something.
Right, but you get what I mean, right? Like, I don't want to dwell too much into it because it's kind of like conspiracy theory, but I think that's kind of something that we could explore, like these like sci-fi scientific explanations of supernatural occurrences in religious texts. I don't know, so it's just something to
Sure. Yeah.
consider.
Yeah. People have
But
talked about it, like what stopped like the sun in like the one book. I get you.
yeah, yeah, uh,
But
but
early
yeah, but
sci-fi. You go on.
yeah, no, yeah, early sci-fi. So yeah, so it's just like I only mentioned that from the Bible because that just popped up to me, but it's really more to do with like a fringe science than anything else. Like it's not really anything that is kind of like, oh yeah, these people had flying cities. Or that it's something that worked off of gears and steam and clockwork. Like no, it's like literally like Moses had a machine, and that's what like, and it was given
And a
to him
food,
by
and a food
some sort of
replicator.
soup. Yeah, it was a food. It was
It
a food
pumped out
replicator.
minerals and stuff. It was Soylent Green. It was people. Sorry.
It was people. Oh God.
Oh my goodness. Um, but yeah, but like I said, so that's at a certain point. I feel like there's like this big gap, and I try to look up certain sci-fi's between like. Well, people keep acting like Frankenstein is the first science fiction, and it's definitely the first
Right.
modern science fiction. But
Right.
there's stuff before it. But I've noticed, and I think there probably
Yeah.
wasn't so much because the church had such power in the West, I feel like anything dealing with that kind of science was heretical.
Yeah, it was very, yes,
Right.
exactly.
But you know what? You
Yes.
brought up a point. You brought up in Gollum, in like Jewish Kabbalah. That's like another example of like perhaps an automaton, because you literally have to write on its head the code that wakes it up. You know, you can call it a spell, but you write like life on it, and then you write it in the
Yeah.
reverse. You take away a character, and it suddenly becomes death. You know.
Right.
Yeah, you have that, but again, like I said, there's a big gap where it must have been heretical for a long time before people started
Right.
delving into science fiction. You know, on
No, but yeah,
purpose.
but no, but certainly, yeah, certainly that. Like, certainly the Church of the Middle Ages did attribute a lot to kind of the let's call it the repression of information, because to say anything that wasn't within religious doctrine or the accepted norm was considered heresy. I mean, even up to, people like Copernicus, people like Leonardo da Vinci, Galileo Galilei. These were men in the high, like, Renaissance time. This was during the 1400s, 1500s, and they were persecuted. They were persecuted for just being, curious, for being,
Right.
knowledgeable, and kind of going outside. It's not really think they weren't really thinking outside the box. They were just, let's call them, unsatisfied with the status quo, and just didn't accept the truths that were being said at the time as reality, and they were persecuted for that.
Right.
uh
Sounds like some part of our subject for next week.
part
They
of, part
didn't
of like
accept that
part of our
reality,
subject.
man.
Yeah, it's just stuff of reality, man. Yeah, stay
Fight the
tuned for
power.
next week. Next week is also pretty good. uh but yeah, no, sir. But then, it also kind of arises that doubt in me as well, where, like, part of the Renaissance was based on retouching and rekindling back to these classical ideas, these classical thoughts that the Romans and the Greeks had, that were preserved by the Arabs. It has to be admitted, right? Like, the
Yeah,
only
no, you're
reason
correct. It
why.
was. It was like the
Yeah,
Byzantine Empire and everywhere in the East.
yeah.
Everything was
The
being put
Byzantine, the
it was
Ottomans,
continued
and the Arabs, and the Moors in Spain, they
right,
were
and then
really the ones that kept the
the
history.
West woke up from the Dark Ages and can finally join, in the Renaissance and have this rebirth. You're absolutely correct.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that kind of repression, it definitely took, kept everybody back. But yeah, like, still
But
science fiction. I want to say like something a bit of like real science fiction, like poor Da Vinci, right? In the
yeah,
Renaissance, he came up with that like flying machine. He just couldn't figure out how to like power it, right? You know what I mean? So like
correct. Yeah.
the sciences were there. It's just the mechanisms in real life just didn't exist yet, or just that missing link of power. Was
Right.
missing.
But yeah, not necessarily power. Like, I just thought it's like, some of Da Vinci's ideas actually do work. The
But
thing
no, but like
is
his
that he was.
helicopter, his actual flying ones, like
Yes, except that he was going at it the wrong way. Like, he was trying to make man fly like a bird, when the truth was, you kind of have to trick. It's a trick of air pressure.
it is. Yeah, it's
Something.
lift
Yeah,
and
it's yes, it's lift. It's lift. It's what it is. Yeah, it's lift caused by a change in air pressure, and nobody
and
really
his
understood that.
kick ass paragliders for sure, but not
Yeah,
decent proper
his
flight.
parachute idea worked.
Yeah,
His parachute idea totally worked. In fact, like, still it's still viable to this day. Like, it's pretty much what he came up with. Um, Same thing with his helicopter idea. His helicopter idea was just that. It's just that he went at it the wrong way. He was like, oh, like, if I just put a spiral, like, it just has to go up, right? Like a drill. Wrong. It's also just a trick of lift. it was a matter of
It's right because
pressure.
if you get it going fast enough, then it will. But like you can't, yeah, you definitely can't get it going fast enough when it's just the spiral to create the. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, but we can even start. We can go into Frankenstein. It's like at some point in the 1800s, I guess. Like you know, people started questioning sciences a bit more. You know, from a different
Yeah.
light. You know,
Well,
more
hang
scientists
on a
started
minute.
going.
Hang on a minute. Yeah, I also want to mention Jules Verne was before or after Mary Shelley?
After.
Way after. Okay, all right.
Not,
Because
I
that
want to say
then
like way after. I think Frankenstein came out like 1818, but then Jules Verne's stuff came out like in like the 1890s. So consider it like,
okay.
yeah,
All right, then no, because you know what I was about to mention, but
yeah.
I
All right,
guess
I'm
I
saying
guess well
1870s, 1860s. So still like 60 years after her. Like Around the World in 80 Days is 1872. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is 1870. So still a big gap between 1818.
okay.
You know,
Oh
or
no, then yeah,
yeah.
then my you know what I was gonna talk about. So it's I'll mention it later then. But yeah, but so then Mary Shelley with Frankenstein, it presents this what would be considered a big trope in science fiction, which is just there's this ethical and moral root to it.
Right.
Uh
Like where do you cut off that science of wanting to know something versus like should you do it?
but Frankenstein novel is. It's a mad scientist trying to become God,
Right.
basically.
And you
Yeah.
do enjoy. I mean, because remember, it's a modern Prometheus, so it's kind of like, you know,
It is a modern Prometheus.
yeah, like Frankenstein,
Prometheus.
a modern Prometheus.
Prometheus. That I mean,
Yeah.
it's mythology, but you could consider it sci-fi. Like
Right.
it.
Yeah, because they're making something and resurrecting it or bringing it out. Um, Not
Well,
quite.
no, Prometheus. No, Prometheus was just that he was a titan. I believe he was a titan. He was a titan that just went to the gods and
He
he
made
stole
us.
fire.
Yeah, but he made us first. That was the problem. Was that he made us out of clay, and he was responsible for us. And the god said, "All right, you can teach them whatever you want except the gift of fire." So he taught us how to
Right.
like farm and do math and everything like that. So that's what got in trouble with the fire. That's why we got Prometheus over in Times Square. It's more than just giving us the fire. He made us, and then
Right.
he
He
stole
made
the
us and then
fire.
he gave us fire.
But then but it's that forbidden knowledge, and that's actually going to come up next week in the Gnostic thing. Is for forbidden knowledge
Hey.
between Prometheus and all these different biblical characters. But that's why, yeah. So for Frankenstein, it's like what you said. Like it's the forbidden knowledge of whether or not we should you know do something like that and play God
Yeah.
out of consequence.
Out of a consequence. Yeah. And it translates to what a lot of science fiction is nowadays. You got things like well, we'll talk a lot about the
Right.
Matrix next week because of Gnosticism, but it basically is that, like,
But
it's
isn't it
it's
like
the
iRobot? Think of like anything that has
yeah.
like these artificial
Yeah.
people. It's like where do you draw the line between them having free will of something that you made?
Right. iRobot, The Island, The Matrix.
Right. Even like
Uh,
Island of Dr. Moreau and stuff. Like yeah.
yes. There's also I mean, it's no. I'm trying to think that there was a uh there was something where like it involved uh but it was with animals, like it wasn't with human beings, but it was like genetically
I
modifying
think that's
uh
Island of Dr. Moreau because that's the one where he like crossbred people with animals, so he'd give them like panther features or
okay.
yeah, that was H.G. Wells, and then that's been remade as a movie a bunch of times. They had like Marlon Brando and stuff.
Okay.
But that's
It's
that's like a
Jurassic
story.
Park.
That's Jurassic Park. Oh, you know what? Westworld actually, because that was written by
Oh, in
Michael.
Westworld, yeah.
But it was written by Michael Crichton, so you have the 1970s Westworld, and then of course now you have the very popular HBO show. But before
So
that, like
yeah.
if you've never seen Westworld the movie, like with Yul Brenner, I highly recommend.
Oh,
Predates.
there's a movie.
Yeah, yeah, man, it's from the 70s. It's
Oh,
not
okay.
super duper famous, but it's funny because it seems that Michael Crichton knew how to write theme park gone wrong, and before he got famous for Jurassic Park, he actually wrote Westworld, which is about a theme park gone wrong.
A theme park gone
Theme
wrong.
park. Don't play
Wow.
with science. You can't play God with the dinosaurs and the robots. But that's important too. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
for Jurassic Park, it's like God finds a way.
Oh no, not God finds a way. Life finds
Life
a
finds a
way.
way. Yes,
Yeah, life finds a
life
way.
finds a way.
No, for certain, certainly. Uh, yeah, just a lot of these, just morality and ethics, just putting themselves to the test. And then to a certain extent too, like Ghost in the Shell also kind of touches base with that too. Like
Right.
what is a
There.
to what extent does an android have humanity left in him, left in them?
Right.
And it really comes down to what is something called, so that whole bit, this is why I love Ghost in the Shell, by the way. It all comes down to this thing. It's called the Theseus paradox. Now I don't know why it's called the after Theseus, but this is what it is.
Let's see.
So say you have an axe, right? You have an axe.
Oh, I know what this
uh
is already because they did this in
yes.
WandaVision.
Yes. So say you have an axe, and then this was an axe that you inherited from your dad, your grandfather, and you're like, this is my grandfather's axe. You use the axe, and over time you go, you know what, like this handle is a little bit worn out. I'm gonna get it rehandled. So you get the axe rehandled. It's still the original head, but it's a different handle. It'll last longer now. So then over time, the axe gets dented and blunt, and you gotta have to get it resharpened. And in order to do that, you gotta take it over to a blacksmith. The blacksmith has to take it out of the handle, reshape it, and then he puts a new handle on it and everything, and gives it back to you. Is it still the same axe though?
Right. Yeah, exactly. You have to wonder, and it's a paradox because they did that with the way that they described it in WandaVision was the ship of Theseus. It was the same thing where as the ship kept getting repaired, you switch out the old one. Is it really the same ship? And like Vision was like,
Yeah.
it's got the memories.
It has the memory.
It's got the memories.
Okay, then that's probably why it's called the Theseus. And you see, like I hear Theseus paradox and I immediately go into this axe allegory. But if
Right.
it's
No, but it's
because
exactly that. It's the
it's the
is it
ship.
the same? Yeah. Is it the same axe over time?
Yeah.
Yeah, and is it? It's like it's got the soul. It's got the memories.
If you replace every plank on a ship, it's still the same ship.
Right. Correct. Yeah, and such as mankind, right? We have to wonder. Especially if we shed our skin every 7 years and stuff. Are we the same person after all our cells die and come back?
Aha.
Get metaphysical, or even Star Trek. Dr. McCoy acts like that. Like, oh, if you teleport and you're chopped into a million pieces and you get sent back, it's like, is it really you or did you just prestige yourself? That's a Rick and Morty thing. You prestige yourself.
Did you just prestige yourself? Yeah.
You're just a copy on the other end.
Yeah.
But
conveniently enough, that is where the prestige comes from, with the film with Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman. It's exactly what that means.
No, dude, it's sick. I love that though. That was like one of the best twists ever. But you have to wonder, when you top yourself up and teleport yourself, and that's so those science ethical questions that pop up, right? And that I feel like that kind of started probably because of Frankenstein, right? Like that's when science fiction stops being magic or hypotheticals and it started becoming more ethics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that kind of like questions of philosophy rather than questions of capability. Because we keep creating new stories where the capabilities of human are endless. We could teleport or have spaceships. We could write whatever kind of plot devices we want, but then we also add now into our science fiction these questions of like, philosophy, like how far are we allowed to go before we push that
Right.
limit? You know what I mean? That Prometheus
Exactly.
question.
Yeah.
When does the
But
knowledge
then
become forbidden?
yeah. But then and this is where then I'm now going to bring in Jules Verne into the conversation. Do you think then, the this Jules Verne science fiction, this, shall we say the campy 1950 and 60s Forbidden Planet, it came from space sort of science fiction. Do you think that that's just a counterpoint to that, like, we can make science fiction that doesn't have an ethical or
Yeah.
morality? It's just this action adventure.
So I'm glad you brought up Forbidden Planet because I thought about bringing that one up, and we had brought up one of our upcoming shows. We wanted to talk about the prophetic son, and I was going to bring up Prospero. But anyway, Forbidden Planet is the Tempest. Shakespeare's The Tempest in Space, which I enjoy because it's about a guy that gets marooned on an
Right.
island, and so but what if it was in space on a planet? And so that's what I do like about Forbidden Planet. It's like, there we go. It's like one of the first times they like took Shakespeare and like shook it up. It's not 10 Things I Hate About You where it's a set in modern times and it's a rom com. It's like, no, what if we did
Right.
the other thing but in space and it's got Leslie Nielsen?
Right. What if
But
we did
yeah,
Hamlet, but it's with lions?
but to more answer your question, no, I don't. I think some of them are fun to be fun, right? But then
Right.
you still have questions like let's say what's the one, Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's technically sci-fi. It's not
True.
fantasy. He's got to drink a potion. He's not like a werewolf.
Yeah.
He met science himself, and he became his uninhibited id, whatever, however you want to look at it, his
Hmm.
animalistic self. And it
Right.
becomes that, like, would you try to be better at the sake of your own morality or whatever. So there's always going to be a bit of it for sure. It's just like I said, I feel like the questions about ourselves kind of changed as time went on.
I was gonna ask you, could you imagine a Jekyll and Hyde type of story where he doesn't turn into a monster, he just turns into a better, uh, albeit sort of narcissistic
Are you talking
version of
about the Nutty
himself,
Professor?
and then a nutty professor?
Or the
Yeah.
absent-minded professor? Yes, but see, but that's why it gets remade. It gets remade because plastic surgery started becoming more popular, and it's like, well, at least Dr. Jekyll, he was timid, but he had a presentable face in society, whereas Hyde was an abhorrent monster in any kind of instance, inside and
Mm.
outside. But
Yeah.
absent-minded professor and nutty professor, that's actually a good example because it's like, well, it makes me beautiful on the outside, but that's
Right.
not enough. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there you go. We have sci-fi adapting to, again, perhaps the way that humanity is perceiving itself.
True. True. Uh, but still though, like that's one of the things that intrigues me about science fiction in general. Like it's so multifaceted. It's not just about spaceships and into the unknown and like exploring uh put potential, potentialities in like advancements in technology. It's also literally just like, hey, like, can we theoretically make this vehicle that can take us into space,
Right.
or like, take us to the center of the earth, or
Or
bring
even
us
like
into the
John Carter of Mars, like that one's a funny example because he literally still astral projects. It's technically sci-fi, but he had to go by magic because I don't know, like William H. Burroughs didn't think to like put him on a ship and send him off. You know what I mean? Like you have to think about that, like
Mhm.
the limits of what humankind had as technology, and could only imagine as their fictional device versus what they had in real life. You know what I mean? Like I said, like in Metropolis, the 1920s didn't have video phones, but
right,
they conceived one for the movie. You know what I mean? It's
right,
like uh War of the Worlds, H.G. Wells actually did create spaceships and mechas for the aliens to invade Earth with. We didn't have those kind of things, but he thought to give them those. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Things like that. Well, they torpedoed themselves. I think they sent like torpedoes from Mars surface that were the spaceships, so they didn't like just.
yeah,
See, like they didn't have rockets. Like Goddard wasn't really doing like all this stuff yet, or so much that he was,
yeah.
being.
Damn, I remember that scene from the film. I've only seen the Tom Cruise version of War of the Worlds.
I've seen both
I
versions.
remember I remember them dissecting that scene where like, look, there's something going into the earth. What the what was that?
But see, and that's the problem. That one's like the modern telling. Like it was fun reading the book because it's kind of steampunk in its thinking. Like he tried, he tried to imagine what an alien invasion would be like in a time where, we hadn't even pierced the Earth's atmosphere yet.
True.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say. The capability of the human imagination that would create something beyond magic, but the science part.
True. True. Have you seen? This is gonna sound odd when I say it, but have you seen any of the Cloverfield? They're not
I've
spin-offs, but they're like, you have the
I've
one that came out, which
only
is with the shaky with
right.
the shaky cam, but then there's like the Cloverfield paradox, and then there's
I want to see the Cloverfield paradox. So I've only seen the first proper Cloverfield movie, but
okay.
So are the other ones good though? Because I'll watch it if you think it's good.
So the only other one that I saw was Cloverfield Paradox, and I would say that it is in the realm of science fiction because it's I'm gonna try to not give away the spoiler. But this is literally like in the first 5 minutes of the film. The film starts out with these group of astronauts, and they're like in this floating. Miracle Man says,
That's
"Do not watch 3."
duly noted.
uh So yeah, so it's these astronauts, this like international coalition of astronauts, on this sort of international space station, and uh, they're trying to do this. They're not trying to do anything. They're trying to like jumpstart this battery in the hope of finding a new, renewable resource. And I'm just gonna say that they succeed, but the repercussion of that success is what plots the movie.
Right. Okay. I'll watch it.
And
I've been
and then it does somewhat explain of how the shaky cam movie comes into play.
Got it.
Because when you realize that the shaky, like, it's put it this way, Cloverfield Paradox turns Cloverfield. It turns it from a kaiju film into a multiverse science fiction film.
Okay. All right. Well, I see it's on Netflix, so I'll watch that.
Yeah.
Because I've been.
So give it a watch. Give Cloverfield Paradox a watch. It's a decent film. It's not like overly great, but it's not terrible.
It's a fake Cloverfield. Two of the cinema film was fucking great, and John Moon. Yeah, so that's Cloverfield Paradox.
That's
I think there's Cloverfield Lane as well, right?
John Goodman is the one in Cloverfield Lane.
Okay.
All
right, and I'll have to see where that one.
Bought and adapted to fit Cloverfield 2 as a standalone film is fucking great. Okay, I think that one's Paradox. I hope. Okay, Lane is great, but then are you saying that Paradox is the one that isn't the good one, Miracle Man?
I'm looking. It looks like it's got a good cast list. It's got Chris O'Dowd and stuff. In any case, whatever. You know what? It can't be worse than Matrix 4. I watched that for next week's show. So I can
really?
Terrible. I was like,
all right, we'll talk about it. Paradox is poo. Okay, fine, sure, whatever. That's like your opinion, man. I'm not saying that Paradox is the best.
The audience, man. If he hates Paradox, I believe.
I'm not. I'm not saying that I'm a defender of Paradox, but considering that I've only watched the original Cloverfield and I haven't watched Cloverfield Lane, I mean, sure. We can talk about Matrix for it next week.
Yeah, I will. Well, like, it fits with the Gnosticism thing, but good God, man, that was like a baby food of a
we can
movie.
talk.
Okay?
We can talk. We'll talk
That was
about it.
mushy. If you have no gums, you can take in that movie.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
But
Yeah.
um,
Okay.
but yeah, so
But yeah. So no, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I don't
I've
know. I
talked.
was gonna
I've talked enough. Okay. No. It's that. It's the. It's. I've been tied. I just really am tied to those Jules Verne novels, just because like it presents. His science fiction is that sort of plucky action adventure. At times even like swashbuckling kind of science fiction. Like it's interesting and fun for the sake of being fun and adventurous, but then you have kind of like it's I'm
well, he
gonna
was like
put
a,
in
he was
Rick
a
and
pulp
Morty because
novelist,
Rick and Morty is
so
eventually
you
the
know
culmination of all that.
that was like the thing to do at the time. Like a lot of the people we've already referenced, like him and Wells and Robert Louis Stevenson, they were all like pulp novelists. They all like were sensational anyway, but we have to appreciate the level of imagination that went into it because it's
Oh,
endured.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's endured to this day, and it's influenced
Yeah.
so many works. And again, considering the confines of human limits versus reality. Although it's funny, I love Drunk History. They actually covered that after Around the World in 80 Days. Two people actually did the Around the World in 80 Days challenge, and they actually beat the 80 days, and they went
Yeah,
opposite directions.
and they went in opposite directions. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so you have
Yeah,
that.
because Jules Verne didn't really care about like scientific fact. Like none of his thing was really founded on like historical information. He's like, like, oh, wouldn't it be, would it have been fun if like you just had somebody who popped on a hot air balloon and they traveled around the world in 80 days?
Right. And then so at some point too you notice, okay, so we talked about like in early mythologies, you have these instances of unsplained mechanisms, right, which is what Ancient Aliens, the show, is all about.
Ancient Aliens is all about,
You
yeah.
got the big gap where anything science fiction is probably heresy, so you don't really see a lot of it. You got 1800s, suddenly you have these thought-provoking philosophies on morality and the limits of what science should and can do.
Right.
But then, like, at some point, and again, like, I feel like after Jules Verne and H.G. Wells's, like, generation of sci-fi started ending, that's when you started having, like, the dystopias, right? Like, I feel like after Metropolis and, like, you start getting, like, these 1984 type stories. You get Logan's Run. You get, all these bleak futures. Even some of the pulp stories, not the films,
No, yeah.
like Forbidden Planet and stuff.
No, yeah, I know what you mean.
Suddenly,
Yeah, like it's
suddenly you get gritty future Earth. You know what I mean? Like that's why our cutoff is like Star Wars, where suddenly it's like, okay, we got like fantasy and fairy tales, and it's not even in our solar system anymore. It's somewhere totally else. But you have like we're setting our imagination to just our solar system and just our own future as humanity, and the outlook is bad. I don't know.
right
For a long
yeah.
time, there's no utopias in sci-fi.
Can you just call it? Yeah, I mean, you could just call it grim dark, right? Which is
Right.
basically what 40K is.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. It's your Matrix. It's your it's your Matrix. It's Logan's Run.
Because even just using 40K,
Terminator.
Because 40K came out in the 80s, but you could easily say it's definitely heavily influenced on by like Dune, right? And then like Dune was what,
Dune.
Like 1950s. You know what I mean? So I feel like maybe when the world had just come out of World War II and was going into the Cold War and Korean War, suddenly you had all the grit put in. You know what I mean? It's like when you saw all the grimdark start coming out, because I feel like that's all
because all
see of itself,
all of those authors. Well, I mean, I think there you hit your point, right? Like I think the reason for that is because technology actually started to catch up on all these ideas from the 19th century that people were kind of raving on about. But then you also had World War I and World War II, which just
Right. Oh,
completely knocked everyone
and
out of the
that's
water.
something that confirms my point too. Is because you were bringing up Cloverfield, but we wouldn't have Godzilla literally if it wasn't for the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right?
Absolutely, yeah,
Because not just in the Godzilla lore where the radiation made him this giant monster, but just the fact that the message of Godzilla is this uncontrollable power. There will be a weapon so powerful it will destroy us all. And now we've come up with all sorts of Armageddon devices and movies and things like that, the thing that will destroy us all. But I feel like,
yeah.
like Godzilla, him as a message, and
Was
then all these
the
kaiju with the
thesis of that?
yeah,
Yeah,
with the thesis of that. But
totally. Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
like this destruction you can't control, or this destroyer you can't control,
Right.
But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, like you have that. I don't know, in the middle of the 1900s, which we call the
Yeah.
1950s now.
No, yeah,
You were
absolutely.
born in
No,
the
but
late
I think
1900s.
I think it did excuse me. I think it was brought on by just the impact that it had that everyone had off of World War I, World War II. That technology in and of itself was starting to become advanced to the point that it was a realization of the dreams of our grandparents and great grandparents. Um and honestly, yeah, and that like that war is a very powerful traumatic event, and it's why you have, as you mentioned, these dystopias,
Right.
because if this is what human beings and humankind is capable of, then we can only assume like what our future will be. Our future will be not these grand cities of Metropolis and
It's gonna be
Laputa.
Logan's Run domes,
It's gonna be
where you get
freaking Logan. Yeah,
recycled
it's
at
gonna
age 30.
be. Yeah, it's gonna be freaking Logan's Run, and uh, no, yeah, it's gonna be freaking
Or like Death Race 2000 and all those kind of
yeah,
stuff.
Death Race 2000.
Or Planet
Fucking
of the
Mad
Apes.
Max.
Planet of the friggin' Apes.
Yeah,
And you
Planet
have
of the
Rod
Apes. Yeah,
Sterling to
Mad
thank for
Max.
that. That's
And
what I
Mad
love.
Max.
Jetpacks.
You know.
Where's my jetpack future?
Yeah. But yeah, like it's. I'll keep on saying. I'll keep on dropping names. Like Mad Max. You have the recent Ready Player Two. I don't really consider Ghost in the Shell to be dystopian. It's just kind of
Is it
it's
kind of
just it's
future?
a pro. Yeah, it's future. Cowboy Bebop is not really dystopian either. It's just that the moon explodes and it makes Earth uninhabitable. So then the center of humanity just moves over to Mars, but Mars is pretty much thriving. I mean, like nobody really is suffering.
Or even like
Uh,
the Fifth Element, taking away the magic aspect of it and just keeping it. I
yeah,
just love how
Blade
mundane,
Runner.
typical. Yeah, but like in Blade Runner too, just how mundane Earth is. It's like it doesn't need to be
Yeah,
dystopia. It just needs to be really boring. Like we're just still doing that same shit we haven't like
right.
outgrown.
But that just makes it all the more believable,
Yeah.
to be honest. Because like you do really see that as a logical future. Like it's not this like 80s inspired future that it is in Back to the Future too. It really like our realistic future does look a lot like Philip K. Dick's proposition of a Blade Runner. Oh, and let us not forget Brave New World.
I
Did you read that?
I didn't
Yeah,
read Brave New World, but I'm aware of it, and I'm like thinking like Gattaca and stuff. You have
Gattaca. Yeah,
yeah.
we're certainly. I think at some point or another we will inadvertently end up probably in a future very similar to Gattaca
Yeah, with like designer
and Brave
babies
New
and
World.
whatnot, and
Designer babies, yeah,
yeah,
designer babies, and just like having. I mean, we already have Soma to a certain extent.
yeah. I mean,
It's
we
just
literally
it's
don't we call it Soma? Don't we
no, it's just
no,
it's
I
killing.
like
It's
kill.
just it's killing us. It's killing the majority of the population, and we're trying to get out of that.
We're trying.
I'm talking about opioids
Yes.
and the this fuckhole of a family that
Yeah.
controls the
No,
entire.
but see, there is a brand name,
Oh, there's
Soma. It's
the sat.
Karis Peridol. I think now we're more like 12 Monkeys. Yeah, 12 Monkeys is also a pretty realistic future because it has the outbreak, and they don't even want to try to find the exact cure to send him back. They just want to find the source because then they can find the cure. You know what I mean? And it
Right.
seems very much like the COVID outbreak. It's like
Yeah.
we already kind of have the disease. It's just we want to find out where it came from. You know,
Where
like
it came from, yeah. Cue that scene from Contagion where it's like the bat eats the fruit, then the fruit drops, the pig eats it, the pig then gets butchered and ends up in.
it's a small world. We're just passing things from hand to hand and germ to germ, and it's like repeats. And that's why War of the Worlds is good. I don't like it that people don't like the twist, but I think that's exactly the twist it would be. The aliens would totally just die of smallpox or something.
Oh, for sure.
We'd be giving each other colds one way or another. You know?
Yeah, I mean, just look into history itself. That's the
Guns,
biggest
Germs, and Steel. That's a required reading at Broward
yeah,
College for depending on one of the classes you
germs,
take.
guns, and steel. Yeah. No, sorry. I saw something fly past me, and it is exactly what you think it is.
Was it your kitty cat?
No,
No.
no. But I'm hoping that Claudia does catch it because I don't know where it went.
Oh.
Claudia, find the intruder.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway.
Kill.
But yeah, I'm sorry. I was momentarily distracted by the
It's
you're talking about disease. Yes, germs, guns, and steel. Yes, I need to read that book. That I've been recommended that book so many times.
Yeah, well, it's just about, there's colonialism, sure, unfortunately the white colonialists had the upper hand, with guns and stuff, but it was the germs, you know what I mean? Like, probably
Yeah.
still could have lost a lot of the fighting if it wasn't for all the smallpox and stuff,
Indeed. Miracle Man, Earth is not gonna be that lucky in the reality
I was gonna say,
regarding
we'll be the
War of
ones
the
getting
Worlds.
the
Yeah.
colds to Miracle Man. We'll be the ones
Yeah.
getting the alien colds.
Yeah.
With them.
That is a thing, by the way. When Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin got sent out to the moon, they were like quarantined for 40 days because NASA didn't really know, just are they bringing in some sort of
There's
space-bound
extremophile
pathogen?
There's extremophile, if a tardigrade can live in space, what else can?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't remember what the name of the movie was, but there was a movie that it was about this parasite, this space parasite that started eating the crew members, and super scary, man.
Oh man, I'm just reminded because you brought up Cloverfield. I remember when people were getting sick in Cloverfield and they were just exploding. Their blood was clotting so intensely or whatever. Remember that?
Oh my god, really? In Cloverfield?
It was in the first one. It was more than just a kaiju thing. So people were getting sick, and then they were getting alien sick from whatever the creature was, and they were bleeding from the nose, and they were in this extreme blood clot. That was a thing that happened in the movie, right? I'm not just remembering that wrong.
Oh, Claudia, I got it. Hey, good job. Good job, good girl. No, I don't. It's been legit more than 10 years since I've seen. I saw it when it just came out.
Yeah, me too. Me too. No, but then I remember how disturbing it was. The girl was like, "Oh, she's bleeding from the eyes and stuff." Yeah, here we go. I got it on YouTube. I don't feel so good. She explodes behind the curtain.
Oh God, really? Jeez.
Are we watching the same movie? Yeah, here, I'll even put it in our audience chat. Boom. See, I back my shit up.
You back your shit up. Let's take a peek at this really quickly.
Yeah, you can watch that on mute. Anybody who wants to watch.
Yeah.
One day we'll have a show more Hassan Abi, where there'll be more of a visual aspect. I hate how he's always just lounging, and he's just got his web browser open. He's just scrolling so fast and scrolling through his chat so fast. I'm like, this is ADD. I want to join, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be.
I know, right? look at us two schmucks actually putting in some decent work.
Right, paying attention to people because we love them for some reason. No.
Yeah, we love you guys. We really do. Thank you very much for support. Oh, I see it. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I don't remember, but yes, I see the part. I see the part that you mean. Oh my god, that is scary.
Yeah.
like like the city is not just getting attacked by a giant kaiju. Everyone is
People are
freaking
getting sick
imploding.
too and exploding.
Everyone's freaking imploding.
Right. But then, so you have more of that. You have like contagions being a source of I'm not gonna say science fiction because it's reality, but just being put into science fiction as a device.
hmm
You know.
Yeah.
Um.
I mean, is every zombie film just basically that? It's just
Yeah,
a
because it's all right. So it's funny you would say that because that could almost be its own show. The evolution of zombies from like ghouls to Haitian voodoo to
Resident Evil.
Resident Evil, yeah, like either 28 Days Later, where it's a
Yeah.
contagion,
World
or
War
or
Z.
it's or it's the undead,
Yeah.
But I mean, zo- I mean, zombies are just supposed to be servants in voodoo. It's supposed to be the soul.
Yeah.
You have you, but they're not flesh eaters.
Right. They're
Which
not. They're not life. Yeah. They're not the Night of the Living Dead or George Romero
Right, exactly. Yeah,
kind.
George Romero at some point he turned zombies into ghouls, but like ghouls are the undead that eat flesh. That's already a thing.
Yeah.
you know.
But they're the servants of vampires.
Are they? I
Right.
thought
That's
I thought they were or necromancers or just whoever,
or necromancers. Yeah. But like it's Oh my god, where does that come from? Oh, that comes from freaking Helsing. That's where I get that idea from. Yeah, in Helsing. Yeah, because again, like I brought this up in our vampire episode. Go watch our vampire episode. I mentioned it in our vampire episode where we're in the canon of Helsing. A ghoul. So I'm sorry. So in the canon of Helsing, in order for you to become a vampire, like the opposite gender vampire has to bite you, which is how Sarah's Victoria becomes a vampire because Alucard is a male vampire and he bites her, and so she's basically this like half vampire until she feeds for the first time. But then if he bites another guy, the guy basically becomes a ghoul. I don't
I
know why. That's just what it is. That
I'm thinking like
is that
like poor Renfield or something like that, but he was just a human that really wanted to be a vampire. I don't know. I'm just trying to think.
zombies.
Zombies.
We just got into zombies because technically it's oh yeah because it's a contagion like science fiction,
Right. If you want it to be.
right?
Yeah. Like
If you want it to
like
be,
Train to Busan, or whatever. That's like the modern zombies now or like contagion things. You don't really have people bringing
yeah,
purposely rising the undead with their unholy magic. Usually
right,
it's a sci-fi device anymore. Which so you're
yeah.
correct in that. Yeah, it's like
Yeah, it's Resident Evil, right? T
right. But
virus.
it's still fantasy because it's like you're not gonna have necrotic flesh rise like that and eat people incompletely. It's always funny. It's like if zombies are supposed to be eating people, why are they always just biting and walking away and leaving intact people? And then sometimes they don't. Anyway,
Right.
it's stupid.
Anyway,
That's
yeah.
that's movies. Um, but yeah, we could start wrapping it up because it's 9. But I mean, any
Sure.
other audience members want to put in their input? Just
Yes.
yeah,
What?
yeah.
Yeah, I would really like to know what the audience like. What is your favorite kind of sci-fi? Like, do you like the dystopian sci-fi? Do you like the utopian sci? Yeah. I mean, dystopian sci-fi. A la Blade Runner, Logan's Run. Do you like utopian sci-fi? This is Star Trek, and you could even mention it as Star Wars. Uh,
Kind of sci-fi
as a
connected to.
utopian sci-fi, or do you like the swashbuckling action adventure sci-fi, or do you like the sci-fi where the line between morality and ethics is crossed and just to see where it takes you into the world beyond?
I like those. I like those philosophical questions because I'm a very science-driven person. But even then, it's like, should we do everything? Should we have Gattaca World? No, because it creates
Right.
like this classist society. But yeah, Miracle Man goes kind of sci-fi connected. TV clips in the original Night of the Living Dead referred to a space probe that crash landed when it came to Earth as possible cause of coming back. Yes, no, I remember they were like listening to the radio and it brought back the dead. But yeah, so but again, it's like that sci-fi aspect to something that could have been just magic, but they decided not to make it magic. You know what I mean? They decided to make it, other.
Yeah,
Um, and
I kind
again,
of
I
like
feel
that
like
kind.
it comes from the fear of where we were going in space. What we might
True.
find in space. How it would affect
Yes.
Earth. Because a lot of people were like afraid of like cosmic rays and stuff, things that they never been afraid of before, but it's because they knew it was there. Suddenly, they wanted to like wear tinfoil
Right.
hats to protect them from it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
Oh, Signs. Ugh.
Signs. What? Oh my god! What a terrible movie.
What a terrible
Oh,
movie.
Jesus Christ! Smells
They're
fucking
allergic
dicks.
to water.
Yeah, welcome to Earth. I hope you enjoy
where
all
there
the
is
water.
where there's literally moisture in the air.
And why were they naked? Why, like, don't you think that they'd be like wearing clothes if they were like a society that managed to make their way over here? They're just like walking around like clicking at us and like they couldn't
That
figure out a fucking door. They managed to make it wherever planet they came from, and they couldn't figure out how to twist that door.
right. That's the this is why I prefer Contact over Signs,
Yeah,
because
because
at
it
the
was written by
very
Carl
least,
Carl F. and Sagan, somebody who actually
yeah,
knows
because
about outer
someone who
space.
actually knows a fucking something, right? Yeah, someone who actually knows what he's talking about.
For real. No, you're absolutely correct. That's the difference.
uh, anyway, but yeah, but like for me, I kind of like the I liked Blade Runner. I liked
I like Blade Runner.
I talk about Ghost in the Shell all the time. I talk about Cowboy Bebop. So maybe for me it is that kind of not really dystopian, but it's the future that could be.
Right.
It's for me it's that, like it's I read Dune. It took me a while to really digest what Dune really was trying to portray, and it didn't really like lock in until I saw the David Lynch film. And then even more so with this latest incarnation by David of the Villeneuve, the one with Timothy Chalamet, which is pretty good. That one was pretty good as well. Um, it's that, it's this plausible sci-fi,
Yeah. I like those too, and
where
I
it's
like the
futuristic,
dystopias
but it's
too.
not
Exactly.
too out of the way. Yeah.
It
Oh,
goes.
Dennis Villeneuve. Thank you.
Yeah, I like Logan's Run. I bring that one up a lot because I liked it as a kid. It was a very aesthetically pleasing movie, and it goes to show that you can have all your needs met, right? Like everybody lives in like their domes. Have you ever seen Logan's Run? I don't know.
No, you keep telling me I need to watch this film, and I sincerely, like, each time I see it pop up
It's
on
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 HBO.
HBO, I favorite it.
It's on
Just
HBO
like,
Max. I'm actually gonna scroll through. This is only for myself. Sorry, audience, you don't get to enjoy it. But let me see what minute mark my mother in law's an extra in it. Um, but but so in Logan's Run, people have all their needs met. They even have, what? Because this is what I wanted to talk about. When we were talking about science that didn't really exist but could exist, they have Tinder. They literally has a remote control, and he scrolls through people to have sex with, and he like scrolls past a girl, and he scrolls past a guy, and he thinks about it, and he scrolls past to another girl, you know what I mean? So stuff like that. But anyway, but the point is, you get like recycled at the age of like 30, right? I think it's even younger in the
right,
book. It might be like 25. You don't even have to raise your own kids. There's like a dome for that. You know what I mean? Um,
yeah,
and you age through the system. But anyway, so yeah, I like that one because it shows that humanity's going to reach a point where all our needs are met. Obviously they're not living in the outside world because they believe it's like uninhabitable. But they're in these domes that where it's supposed to be paradise. That can even go into our Gnosticism talk for next week.
yeah.
It's like,
Oh, but
this confined
God
paradise.
forbid, God forbid we reach a Wally.
Yeah. Well, and that's what it is. It's like sexy Wally. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah,
there's they could be uninhibited and happy and everything like that in there, but for the price of lack of freedom, and then also you get recycled by the time you age out of the system, and that
Yeah.
blows.
There's 10,000 years between now and Dune. A lot of bad stuff can happen between now and then. Yes, like a Butlerian computers and AI literally take over our lives and we fight for dominance. Outwardly win, of course, but then like completely mistrust the machines that think for themselves at all. A la Sky. See, like it's dude is Terminator if once humanity has won.
Yes.
when humanity beat Skynet, that's dude.
Then they just had to figure out getting the spice.
Yeah, then they have to figure out getting the spice melange.
The spice melange. I love that.
The best prediction of the future was dinner scene in Brazil. You must say the number.
And yeah, so Brazil, thank you for bringing that up too, because yeah, that's another one I want to talk about for next week. But that one also is very good at predicting one aspect of the future is a false sense of terror, because in Brazil they keep having these mysterious terror like attacks in the middle of like their metropolis, right? Like they'll be hanging out and having a dinner, and then somebody is like killing themselves with like a suicide vest, but it's all like fake fear and terror to keep the masses in line, which is something very on par with what's been happening in a way now. You know what I mean? So you got that kind of thing. And so you must say the number. No, and that's just I love that. Or what's that other movie? Demolition Man, with the way that the food is gonna be. Like food will be much more processed for sure. Or green.
Blade Runner, where actual animals are not, well, no, they're a rarity. Yeah, yes. Real animals are a rarity in Blade Runner.
Damn.
But anyway, yeah. How about we leave it right here, because I think this is a good stopping point for next week's topic, which will be about Gnosticism. If you don't, fellow audience members, if you don't know what Gnosticism is, do a little bit of research. I mean, we'll talk about it next week, but still, like it really harkens to a lot of the major themes and topics that are happening even to today in our own reality, as it were. Ever think that your world is not what it should be? Tune in and find out next week. Right. We'll talk all about it.
We'll take you down the rabbit hole, Alice. Sorry, I was just rewatching The Matrix.
We'll take you down the rabbit hole, Alex. Yes. Oh, and we can talk about Matrix 4 too next week too, because I'm pretty certain you have a lot of things to say.
I'm not gonna eat up the time with it. No, I'm just saying I watched it for the sake of being well researched for the show. Okay, I've seen all three. Why not watch number 4?
I have to do the same with watching Free Guy. And I will not disappoint you. Yeah, yes, I'm not gonna disappoint you.
Homework for next week's audience. That's what we should start doing. Homework. Dark City, The Matrix, Revolutionary Girl Utena, or maybe you could just watch the movie Adolescence of Utena, Free Guy, maybe even Brazil, because we got a President of the Mind kind of motif in that one.
Yeah. If you can. These are not required, but it would definitely make...
If you want to watch what we're watching, that's what
if you want to watch what we're watching, that's what we are going to watch next week. Right. But anyway... yes, so thank you very much for joining.
Man. Doesn't matter. Better late than never.
Better late than never. Yes, thank you very much for joining us. Shout outs to Miracle Man, Monkiti, Konbawa. Thank you very much, Sabrina. This has definitely been an exciting return. Once again, my name is Antonio. I go by Moonrover here on Twitch. I am kind of a recluse. I don't really have much to kind of shout out. But we do have other programs here on SoFlo Radio, such as Sabrina with her miniature painting on Mondays.
Monday morning minis.
And then do catch that Metropolis showing that we had on Science Cinema.
Please
Science
do.
Cinema also being another one of our best shows.
Right, and then we'll be playing more
Um,
Boca Brit. I've just been bad. I haven't been home on
yeah,
Sundays. I probably won't be home this Sunday
in-
either. Happy Easter to everyone.
indeed. Oh yeah, happy Easter to everyone. And all the other holidays that we totally just like sort of skimmed over. Anything you want to plug in, Sabrina?
Not at the moment. We'll be doing more convention appearances. That'll probably be at the end of May, but we'll be announcing those later. But everybody's just been such a good sport. We're at like 260 followers, and we're growing. It's happening.
Yes.
Happy Living Day Dead. See, and that works out. See, Miracle Man's paying attention. It's Zombie Jesus, and then next week we're gonna have Gnosticism. So he hath risen. It's
He half
hath
risen.
risen. Excuse me, I lisped out. happy
Zombie
Day.
Day. But anyway,
Hide some
SoFlo
eggs.
Radio on all social media. SoFlo Radio on all social media. Twitter,
Twitter.
Twitch, Twitter,
Instagram.
TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Who the fuck uses Facebook anymore? Anyway, but yeah, we're there. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a nice and excellent Easter. Easter is this weekend?
I know, right? It sneaks up on you.
No.
It
Is
is.
it this week? I have
It is.
no clue.
Yeah,
Oh, it
it's
is?
Good,
Okay.
yeah, it's Good
All right.
Friday this Friday, and then yeah.
Okay. I guess wait, then Palm Sunday was
Last Sunday.
last Sunday.
Yeah, I know.
Fuck,
You're
okay.
you bad cat.
I'm lost. Yeah, I'm lost. I'm lost as
You
what it is.
need
Anyway,
church.
yeah, I'm just terrible. And no, I just realized that in our little pre-discussion, like I was mentioning about how like Aragorn from Lord of the Rings and this whole like Palm Sunday thing, and just me like literally blabbling on, not realizing that Palm Sunday was really like the day.
I thought you knew because you said it the day of, and I was like, oh, he's right. Slow clap. Slow clap, everybody. It's okay. All right, we're tuning out. We're closing the stream. Good night, everybody.
Shut it down. Good night, everybody.